The Space Trilogy. A Cosmic Trilogy is a series of science fiction novels by C.S.Lewis, famous for his later series The Chronicles of Narnia. A philologist named Elwin Ransom is the hero of the first two novels and an important character in the third. Contents. Summary. The books in the trilogy are Out of the Silent Planet, set mostly on Mars. In this book, Elwin Ransom voyages to Mars and discovers that Earth is exiled from the rest of the solar system. Far back in Earth's past, it fell to an angelic being known as the Bent Oyasa, and now, to prevent contamination of the rest of the solar system, it is known as the Silent Planet. Pelandra, set mostly on Venus, also known as Voyage to Venus. Here Dr. Ransom journeys to an unspoiled Venus in which the first humanoids have just emerged. The hideous strength, set on Earth. A scientific think tank called the NICE is secretly in touch with demonic entities who plan to ravage and lay waste to planet Earth. In 1946, the publishing house Avon published a version of The Hideous Strength specially abridged by C.S. Lewis entitled The Tortured Planet. Publication history. Lewis, C.S. Out of the Silent Planet. London, The Bodley Head, 1938. Lewis, C.S. Pelandra, a novel. London, The Bodley Head, 1943. Lewis, C.S. The Hideous Strength, a modern fairy tale for grown-ups. London, The Bodley Head, 1945. Lewis, C.S. The Dark Tower and Other Stories. Walter Hooper, ed. London, Collins, 1977. The Dark Tower, an unfinished manuscript published posthumously in 1977, named The Dark Tower by Walter Hooper, its editor, features Elwin Ransom in a less central role as involved with an experiment that allows its participants to view on a special screen their own location in a parallel universe. Its authenticity was impeached by Lewis scholar Catherine Lindskog in her scholarly criticism of Walter Hooper, but in 2003 Alistair Fowler established its authenticity when he wrote in the Yale Review that he saw Lewis writing the manuscript that would be subsequently published as The Dark Tower, heard him reading it, and discuss it with him. Influences and approach. Lewis stated in a letter to Roger Lansland Green, "What immediately spurred me to write was Olaf Stapledon's Last and First Men, and an essay in J.B.S. Haldane's Possible Worlds, both of which seem to take the idea of such travel seriously and to have the desperately immoral outlook I try to pillory in Western. I like the whole interplanetary ideas as a mythology and simply wish to conquer for my own PT of view what has always hitherto been used by the opposite side. I think H.G. Wells' First Men in the Moon the best of the sort I have read." The other main literary influence was David Lindsay's A Voyage to Arcturus. The real father of My Planet books is David Lindsay's A Voyage to Arcturus, which you also will revel in if you don't know it. I had grown up on Wells' stories of the kind. It was Lindsay who first gave me the idea that the science fiction appeal could be combined with the supernatural appeal. The books are not especially concerned with technological speculation, and in many ways read like fantasy adventures combined with themes of biblical history and classical mythology. Like most of Lewis's mature writing, they contain much discussion of contemporary rights and wrongs, similar in outlook to Madeleine L'Engle's Kairos series. Many of the names in the trilogy reflect the influence of Lewis's friend J.R.R. Tolkien's Elvish languages. Setting. Ransom appears very similar to Lewis himself, a university professor expert in languages and medieval literature, unmarried, wounded in World War I and with no living relatives except for one sibling. Lewis, however, apparently intended for Ransom to be partially patterned after his friend and fellow Oxford professor J.R. Tolkien. Since Lewis is presented as novelizing Ransom's reminiscences in the epilogue of Out of the Silent Planet and is a character narrator in the Frame Tale for Perelandra, in that hideous strength Ransom, with his royal charisma and casual acceptance of the supernatural, appears more like Charles Williams. In Out of the Silent Planet it is suggested that Ransom is not the character's real name but merely an alias for a respectable professor whose reputation might suffer from his recounting such a journey to the planet Mars in the following books. However, this is unaccountably dropped and it is made clear that Ransom is the character's true name. As befits a philologist, he provides an etymology. The name does not derive from the modern word ransom, but rather is a contraction of the Old English for Ranulph's son. This may be another allusion to Tolkien, a professor of Old English cosmology. Ransom gets much information on cosmology from the Oyasa of Malacandra or Mars. Mal-Eldil, the son of the Old One, ruled the field of Arbol or solar system directly, but then the Bent One rebelled against Mal-Eldil and all the Eldalar of deep heaven. In response to this act, the Bent One suffered confinement on Earth, where he first inflicted great evil. Thus he made Earth a silent planet, cut off from the Oirezu of other planets, hence the name Thulkandra, the silent planet, which is known throughout the universe. Mal-Eldil tried to reach out to Thulkandra and became a man to save the human race. According to the Green Lady, Tynidril, Thulkandra is favored among all the worlds, because Mal-Eldil came to it to become a man. In the field of Arbol, the outer planets are older, the inner planets newer. Earth will remain a silent planet until the end of the great siege of deep heaven against the Oyasa of Earth. The siege starts to end at the finale of the trilogy, That Hideous Strength. But there is still much to happen until the fulfillment of what is predicted in the Book of Revelation, when the Oirezu put an end to the rule of the Bent Eldil and on the way smashed the moon to fragments. This, in turn, will not be the end of the world, but merely the very beginning of what is still to come. Eldalar. The Eldalar are superhuman extraterrestrials. The human characters in the trilogy encounter them on various planets, but the Eldalar themselves are native to interplanetary and interstellar space. They are barely visible as pillars of faint, shifting light. Certain very powerful Eldalar, the Oirezu, control the course of nature on each of the planets of the solar system. They can manifest in corporeal forms. The title Oyasa seems to indicate the function of leadership. Regardless of the leader's species, when the Perelandran human Tor assumes rule of his world, he styles himself to Oyasa Perelandri. The Eldalar are science-fictionalized depictions of angels, immortal and holy, with the Oirezu perhaps being angels of a higher order. The Eldalar resident on, actually imprisoned in Earth, are Dark Eldalar, fallen angels or demons. The Oyasa of Earth, the Bent One, is Satan. Ransom later meets the Oirezu of both Mars and Venus, who are described as being masculine and feminine, respectively. The Oirezu of other worlds have characteristics like those of the corresponding classical gods. For instance, the Oyasa of Jupiter gives a feeling of merriment. Hnu is a word in the Old Solar language which refers to rational animals, such as humans. In the book, the Old Solar speaker specifies that God is not Hnu, and is unsure whether Eldalar can be termed Hnu, deciding that if they are Hnu, they are a different kind of Hnu than humans or Martians. The term was adopted by some other people, including Lewis's friend J.R.R. Tolkien, who used the term in his The Notion Club papers, distinguishing Hnu from beings of pure spirit, of spirits able to assume a body. Similarly, a character in James Blish's science fiction novel A Case of Conscience wonders whether a particular alien is a Hnu, which he defines as having a rational soul. In recent times the term has been used by some philosophers. For example, in Thomas I. White's Is a Dolphin a Person?, where he asks if dolphins are persons, and if such, if they can also be reckoned as HNAU, that is, sentient beings of the same level as humans. Other uses of the term include the term is used by some Christians. Here, as with Tolkien's use of the term HNAU, refers to sentient beings possessing independent will, and thus by extension a soul. Old Solar language. According to the Space Trilogy's cosmology, the speech of all the inhabitants of the field of Varbal is the Old Solar or HLAB Erebol Efkordi. Only Earth lost the language due to the Bent One's influence. Old Solar can be likened to the Elvish languages invented by Lewis's friend Tolkien. The grammar is little known, except for the plurals of nouns. The plurals of some words are simple, only adding a final a or one. Others are quite complex broken plurals, adding an internally acute, and adding or altering a final vowel, and may also include internal metathesis. Terms used throughout the trilogy: Eldil, place; Eldalar, an everlasting, rational, multi-dimensional energy being that is not organic; an angel. Some act in the capacity of Oyasa of a planet. Field of Arbal, the solar system. Glunda Glundandra, Jupiter. H and a U, or now, a rational being capable of speech, intellect, and personhood, and containing a soul. Handra, a planet or land. Hru, blood. Lurga, Saturn. Malakandra, Mars. Mal-Eldil, the Christian god, described in Perlandra as having been incarnated as Jesus. Neruval, Hapax, Legomenon in Perlandra and, from context, apparently Uranus. Oyasa, place. Oerezu, ruler of a planet, a higher-order angel, perhaps an archangel. Perlandra, Venus. Salva, the moon. Thulkandra, Earth, literally the silent planet. Viritrilbia, Mercury. Parallels and adaptations. Other written works. The cosmology of all three books, in which the Oerezu of Mars and Venus somewhat resemble the corresponding gods from classical mythology, derives from Lewis's interest in medieval beliefs. Lewis discusses these in his book The Discarded Image. Lewis was intrigued with the ways medieval authors borrowed concepts from pre-Christian religion and science and attempted to reconcile them with Christianity, and with the lack of a clear distinction between natural and supernatural phenomena in medieval thought. The Space Trilogy also plays on themes in Lewis's essay, Religion and Rocketry, which argues that as long as humanity remains flawed and sinful, our exploration of other planets will tend to do them more harm than good. Furthermore, much of the substance of the argument between Ransom and Weston in Perlandra is found in Lewis's book Miracles. Links between Lewis's Space Trilogy and his other writings are discussed at great length in Michael Ward's Planet Narnia and in Catherine Lynch Coog's C.S. Lewis Mere Christian. J.R.R. Tolkien was a friend and sometime mentor to Lewis. In That Hideous Strength, Lewis alludes several times to Tolkien's Atlantean civilization Numena, saying in the foreword, "Those who would like to learn further about Numena and the True West must await the publication of much that still exists only in the MSS of my friend, Professor J.R.R. Tolkien." Villains in both Tolkien's Lord of the Rings cycle and here are very hostile toward the natural world. Stephen R. Lowerhead's Song of Albion trilogy contains numerous references to and parallels to the Space Trilogy. The main character is an Oxford student whose first name is Lewis. The books combine themes of Christianity and pre-Christian mythology, while the plot involves materialistic endeavors to gain access to forbidden worlds for material gain. There is also a minor villain named Weston. John C. Wright's War of the Dreaming Duology also references the Space Trilogy, with Sulva as a name for the moon and references to fallen planetary angels. Popular music. Christian horror punk band Blast to the Rocket Man, whose lyrics frequently subsist on monster themes, borrowed heavily from the Space Trilogy in their album The Monster Who Ate Jesus. The song, Ransom vs. the Unman, is a direct retelling of the struggle between Ransom and the Unman in Pelandra. The very next song, entitled March of the Macrobes, alludes to the NICE Institute's attempts to disembody the heads of those who wish to gain immortality with lines such as, "Leave flesh behind, there's only mind," or "Set the brain apart, to elevate the heart. Whatever happened to the individual? Where is his soul?" Lastly, Tundra Time on Thalkandra is a tribute to Out of the Silent Planet, with an allusion to the planet Pelandra as well. Malakandra on my mind, Pelandra all the time. Never mind it's Tundra time. Becoming the Archetype, a Christian progressive death metal band, produced an album titled Dichotomy, which was inspired by the Space Trilogy. The album explores themes that are prevalent in the trilogy: biology versus technology and man versus machine. Circle of Dust, a Christian industrial band, referenced the Space Trilogy on Disengage, an album which includes 2 instrumental tracks named Thalkandra and Pelandra. Progressive rock band Glasshammer have based the concept of their album Pelandra on the stories of the Space Trilogy and the Chronicles of Narnia. The Christian band Massive of It has 2 songs that contain quotes from That Hideous Strength. Progressive hard rock band King's X titled their first album Out of the Silent Planet and included a song of the same name on the second album. Gretchen Goes to Nebraska. Iron Maiden recorded a song called Out of the Silent Planet on their album Brave New World. Hip-hop artist and singer-songwriter Heath McNeese has a song titled Pelandra on his C.S.Lewis tribute album, The Weight of Glory. A Christian metalcore band is named Silent Planet, after the first book of the trilogy. They currently have 1 full-length LP and 2 EPs. Space music composer Kevin Brahini, on his album The Way Home, has a track named Pelandra.